Welcome to the kids' table, where the conversation is about fitness, but the maturity level is questionable.
The one and only Gunnar Peterson.
Then you've got Luke Milton, and then there's me.
Weird if you do your own intro. Ladies and gentlemen, Jen Wiederstrom.
So pull up a chair as we talk fitness, the business of fitness, and give a voice to trainers everywhere.
It's informative, it's inspiring, it's where everybody wants to be. This is the kids' table. Today's episode is powered by Yeti. Get in, get out, get going.
All right, are we getting rolling?
We've had
Hopefully we've already,
Oh, great, perfect.
I thought we were about to wrap it up.
Brett's like, welcome to the kids' table.
And it's at
we already have a new
artofcoaching.com.
host. I love how Brett's like, welcome to the kids' table. Yeah. We've made it a handful of episodes without you, but man, we hope we're making you proud out there.
I think you guys are just doing fine. You don't need my help. I'm going to derail it.
We've been struggling up Bartholomew Boulevard here.
Oh, thank you. The alliteration.
And as we get to your doorstep, crawling, we're looking for your help.
Well, there's a large welcome mat, so it's a warm and safe space, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, speaking of welcomes, welcome,
Yeah.
Brett Bartholomew, Art of
it.
Coaching.
Very
What
cool
an
you came
absolute legend. What a
Thanks for
great
having me.
privilege it is to have you on the show. Thanks, mate.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you. I hope I can keep up. Listening to all these, I'm like, okay, my brain and my nervous system better be firing today.
Are you caffeinated?
I have a lot of natural caffeine, but yes, I did have one, except for the one that I spilled, but I'm going to pretend that didn't
That doesn't
happen.
Oh,
count.
sad.
Did you
Welcome to
roll
our
in it?
production. Sorry, coffee.
At least it's not on the couch.
Yeah.
Right?
All the assistants looked at me and they're like, fucking rookie. So,
When did I do your podcast?
3 years ago.
3 years ago?
3 years ago. You don't remember? It was in a big cathedral. We had a whole red carpet laid out for you. There were
I remember
animals
the
with
cathedral.
What?
I remember the cathedral.
Yeah.
He
No,
actually
I
shut
didn't
the
know
production
how
down.
long ago it was. I thought it was longer than that.
It could have been 3 to 5. I'm on episode 400 now.
Wow,
So,
congratulations.
Not that you
Yeah.
weren't memorable, but as you know, you get really locked into that episode. But that was my first chance to really get to know you. I mean, of course, you're a legend. You've been around forever, but it's like, I'll be honest, I do judge guests. We all judge people. People that say they don't judge are full of shit. Human nature, we judge. And if somebody can't drop just a facade and not put on airs within the first 10 minutes and just be like a human, I struggle with that sometimes. And there was none of that with you. And I'm not going to give you many other compliments, but that was one thing that was very refreshing. There was an easy on-ramp. As you know, you have to find a natural way to lead into a conversation, unless you're doing super long form. And eventually people get so worn down that it's going to come out. Immediately, you just went into the human space.
That's a Joe Rogan thing. He said he does that long form. He said because people can hide for 45 minutes to an hour, and he wants to get all the authenticity out. So that's why he has people on for 2 and 3 hours.
Absolutely
And I love
accurate.
his format, and I love the people that come on there because you can dip and dodge and duck and weave and all that, but after an hour, it's like, who are you, bro?
And I
Can
think
I-
so many nuggets come out in conversation, right? Instead of a pitch deck, instead of a proposal type thing, which you
Yeah.
can do for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So much of these nuggets come out in the just general conversation. And I believe that that's what this mode or modality of communication is actually supposed to be about. It's actually supposed to be about being a part of the conversation, not just being the premise for a production or for a proposal.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because I just don't have the kind of situation or setup where I was going to do 4 hours. My life just doesn't allow for that, although I'm sure I could make it. That's not where I'm at right now with it. So who I studied after a while just to make sure I could learn as much as possible was folks like Larry King, where they had to, I didn't watch his show growing up, but I'm aware enough to know that guy was one of the most skilled interviewers of all time, which we try to do more of a conversation as you guys do. But he had an hour, right? Larry King Live couldn't go 4 hours. And so I tried to study how do they do the first 5 to 10 minutes? What's that on-ramp like? Because you don't want to be like, hey, tell us about your bio, everything you did. By the end of that, it's already 15 to 20 minutes. And now you have to find a way to get that person to be human and vulnerable, which is a tricky thing. So whether it's Howard Stern, Larry King, whoever you can study to find out how do they humanize an interaction, I thought was really valuable.
Well, I know you already gave Gunnar a compliment, but let us give you a couple. I think it's important to point out your on-ramp into your career and why. Luke just got to meet you this week, but I have been a fan ever since you were at Summer Strong and had one of the most profound presentations
Phenomenal.
I've ever experienced in my life, mostly because of the way, not only the way that you presented, but the way I was able to really learn and retain from you. Being a good communicator is not just what you say, it's my ability to receive it as an audience member. And I was just taken back by you. I can't remember what year that was. Had to be 5-6 years ago now, easily, maybe more. And to Brett's point, we're not going to bury you as in a bio, but you should go to artofcoaching.com and learn about what Brett does. I've personally gone to your seminars on communication. And I think what started as you trying to help coaches create buy-in with their athletes on various levels of performance from high school to pros. You really started to find this really exciting space around communication and creating social agility for people, whether that's someone, I think you said this morning over coffee, whether someone's just like kind of nervous and wants to learn how to be more comfortable talking in front of people or contributing in a dinner conversation, to somebody that's actually trying to be a public speaker for a living. Yeah. So it's really fun because you're someone that is able to help see these nuances in people's personalities and help them get out of their way. And that's what's like so exciting to me as like your friend now, watching you do that, learning from you doing that. And I mean, it was so funny. Like even coming into this week, we're like, what do we want to talk about? You're like, dating. Do you want to talk about this? I mean, we can do it all. And want to do it all.
I think a lot of that, and you're right, communication is so much about what the other person receives and interprets. I think a big turning point in my life was realizing and really understanding the nuance of what a coach is. And you're a locksmith for people. So I loved, and I worked in collegiate athletics and worked at pro sport in the military, but we've all seen examples of like perfect programming done poorly. And there was a lot of intellectual masturbation always in strength and conditioning about, the best program. And great, everybody should write great programs and adhere to them. But at the end of the day, like coaching, you're a social individual engaging in a social process with other social beings. If all programs were equal, like how are you going to get the most out of that person? And you've got to connect with their purpose, because purpose is a natural performance enhancer. And so I was like, if I'm good at what I do, I should even be able to take, hypothetically, a shit program with almost no equipment and get more out of that person than somebody that's got a whole sports science lab and everything else, right? Just be resourceful. Like what is a great coach? And so obsessing about that and having kind of a quarter life crisis of like, am I even good at my job? Okay, well, what is a good coach? What's an effective coach? To that point, what's an effective leader? What's a good person? What's a good spouse? Like that boils down to, or the water that swims in is communication. And then you think, well, what's communicate? And so you just go down these rabbit holes and you're like, oh shit, this is the stuff that I need to focus on if I want to be a better person and professional. And then that's how my weirdness started.
And that is a really interesting word, communication. I think that it gets thrown around, and a misunderstanding around that word maybe more than anything else. And another thing that we had the privilege of talking to you about today was meeting people where they're at and making sure that you understand what that social currency is. And that is communication. And as we start to talk about, people think that they're a good communicator, but if we're not talking to someone else that's willing to be able to absorb that or meet us in that position, then that's up for debate, right? And trying to get to your point, understanding what the outcome that you want is, what the outcome the other person is, and then talking about some of those ways in which you communicate. So I think it's a really important subject for people to start talking about. And
your book, so it's calling it communication, all well and good, but in fact, it has to be tailored to the person you're communicating with, or the group, right? Like to me, that's one of the things that stood out. When I first read Conscious Coaching, and then I listened to it, and I was bummed you didn't do the audio.
Yeah, there's a story behind that.
Okay, I'm sure.
It's not your voice on the audio?
No.
You haven't listened?
No,
I thought you
have
did that
the
before
paper.
bed every night. That's what you told me. I have receipts.
No, I have the paper book.
Yeah.
But I ordered either 10 or 20 copies and passed it out to the guys on my staff at the Lakers, and also I passed it up the chain to the basketball coaches, because not just like people think it's not about strength coaching. I mean, it's about that's where it's rooted. Yeah. But it's about identifying the types of people that you are coaching, and you can't coach everybody the same. The cookie cutter approach doesn't work. It's just that's dated. That's just gone. And I thought when I'm the first time I read it, I'm thinking, oh my God, I know that guy. Oh my God. And like each person I put to your names for those subtypes.
Those archetype,
Yeah. I put people I had trained in there. I'm like, oh my God, that's that fucking guy.
Yeah.
And, I should have approached that like that. A lot of them I nailed, but there were definitely some where I go, I left performance on the table because I didn't approach him a way that you were saying. So the book,
It's such a good guidebook.
it's really
So much good insight.
But I would say great for a strength coach, great for a coach of a sport, great probably also for a school teacher.
I was about to say teacher.
That
Yes.
ended up being a huge accidental market for us.
There, yeah,
was education.
that makes
in the
perfect
business
sense to me.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Well, aren't
perfect sense.
coaches educators?
Well, again,
will you boil it down to that?
Coaching and leading is guiding.
And,
Yeah.
Guiding
and
development.
educators are coaches in that they are trying to get elevated performance out of their charges, right?
Yeah.
Are you seeing and this is like all four of us, are you seeing a change in the way people communicate or are struggled to do so because of the way we've been getting so tech heavy? Like, people are dating through apps now versus going out and asking someone out. Like, are you seeing repercussions into people who show up for your workshops or people that ask you questions?
Yeah.
Because I just feel like there's something that's changing in the way people are not able to talk anymore.
Yeah, no question. I mean, because think about it, like everything now, if you just watch, I love watching people on a plane and how they engage when they're on social media. They almost always stop on videos. It's like, here's 5 ways your brain's exploding today. Everything is fear-based, urgency, immediate. And what does that do? That triggers anxiety in a lot of folks. And so people don't actually communicate with a clear message or goal in mind. So when a client is working with me and they're like, hey, what do I say or what do I do if X, Y, and Z occurs? I'm like, well, what's your goal? Like,
He said Zed for you.
I'm like, is your goal like to actually fix this relationship, whether it's with a boss or a spouse or whatever? Is your goal to do this? And then like, what's your core message? If you're driving down, and this is a useful heuristic, I think. If you're driving, imagine you're driving down a highway at 75, 85 miles an hour and you see a billboard. You don't have long to process what that billboard says. And that's analogous to finding message clarity. People are so busy and their attention span relatively is so short oftentimes that it's like they're driving down that highway and they're only going to they're going to process that momentarily. So you have all these things you want to say, consolidate it. What's the billboard? What's the headline? And it's not like you're always going to come up with that right away. Let's say I go on a long-winded rant, which I'm halfway to doing. I can come back and say, so the message there and the take home there, the billboard there is blank, blank, blank. So oftentimes don't put pressure on yourself to like know that right away. But if you have to have a goal, you have to have a clear message or clearer, and then you have to have an audience, as you all alluded to, that's willing to receive that.
Yeah, but I mean, you're taking us down a pathway of like, hey, I'm presenting some information. I want people to be able to hear it, retain it, and take something with them, right?
Yeah.
I was in like out in the wild. I'll say like I'm out at a bar. I'm going out with friends or whatever it is. Even just interfacing with people, I feel like is different now from a communication
There's more
standpoint.
avoidance.
Completely.
More
and like
avoidance and withdrawal.
I don't know if you've heard this. It was like a study and it was talking about how it takes on average 29 signals of interest, and they were studying straight couples for a woman to send signals to a guy. So a signal of affirmation would be making eye contact, or maybe I bump into you and I smile. An average of 29 signals for the guy to think or know that like, oh, she's interested in me.
Well, then it depends on how they interpret that too.
It takes one from my wife.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm like, wait, 29. If I look at you and I smile at you, like I'm thinking if I double down, 2 is already like pushing the limit. A third is desperate.
Well,
and they're saying 29.
4, you're just a straight up whore.
Bag 100%. But
right?
like what's it going to take? So is it because people are flooded with so much at once? It's like there's so much stimulus coming at like a fire hose pace. It's like to pick up someone's attentiveness to you. Like
Well, yeah, there's a couple things here. One, people don't get trained on this shit. So let's not act like beyond a point like we're surprised on it, because most people, just because you communicate every day or you interact every day does not mean you're a skilled communicator, right? When I was doing like my doctoral work and we asked people, how do you rank yourself? We were doing like semi-structured interviews. How do you rank yourself as a communicator? 10 being extraordinarily effective, 1 being dog shit. Most people gave the answer you expect. Oh, there's always room for improvement, somewhere between 6 and 8. But the next question threw a loop. Where'd that number come from? Have you ever been evaluated? Have you ever been, people just do what I tell them? Well, there's a difference between commitment and compliance, and so you get a lot of false signals that make you think you're a good communicator. Same thing with conflict resolution. People do nothing or they go to therapy. There's nothing in between. You don't learn this shit in school, just like you don't get sex ed anymore, just like you don't get stuff about how to manage your finances. But there is a lower, what you see is more emotional immaturity now. A lot more people avoiding, deflecting, shutting down, withdrawal, projection, because you have to remember, it's just like fitness. Fitness is your capacity to perform like a task, right? If we boil it down, like Phil Maffetone. Like when you think about emotional maturity, that's not something that you have to develop that capacity. And you only develop that capacity through your willingness to engage in hard conversations or intimate discussions about a subject. It's just like when people are like, how do I find my voice? Well, you don't find it, you develop it. You develop it through engaging in a wide, like diverse scenarios, and you eat shit during one conversation and then you reflect on it. It's like any skill, iteration, reflection, and then you've got to have some kind of work on it. So yes is the answer. People lack that capacity more than ever, I would believe. Well, haven't been alive 200 years ago. So
there's also data supporting a shift, a social shift in these behaviors as well. So 48% of people now in America, adult America, are defined as obese. 52% are actually defined as lonely. And I believe that we're in this loneliness epidemic right now, but we're starting to see a shift.
How many of those share that?
Well, the correlation is absolute. The correlation is absolute. And I don't think that we can...
So then chicken or egg?
Well, great point, right? But if you look at over the last decade and some of the outside factors that have led into both of those things, social isolation, not appropriate information around health and taking responsibility for your own health, there's been a lot of different constructs that have gone into leading into both of those numbers rising. However, I will say, you are seeing a social shift now. You're seeing corporate America investing in real time and in real life situations. Fitness camps are now becoming one of the more investable things as far as fitness retreats, not app-based anymore. So you're seeing a decline in dating apps and you're seeing an increase in real life things like training, mate.
What do you mean corporations are investing?
So private equity firms, venture capitalists now are going away from tech. It's not subjective. Are going away from tech and they're going into in real life experiences, fitness retreats, places like Training Mate, run clubs. So they're starting to invest in the shovel of run clubs.
Are you saying like they're like saying, okay, we're going to buy everybody at our corporation a Training Mate membership? Kind of a thing, corporate wellness. Is that what you're saying?
I think it means they're going to invest in Training Mate, growing the business.
Exactly, and trying to get in that. And then how do they then monetize that? How do they get more productivity out of their workforce? And then say run clubs, for instance, right? Run clubs are this real sort of fictitious thing at the moment, because how do you monetize a free product where 2,000 people show up? Okay, cool. You invest in the running apparel company behind it. You invest in the wearables behind it, and you start investing in the shovel of these run clubs because people are craving human connection. I don't think they've ever been away from it. I just think that society has led them into the basement, into the 1-bedroom apartment where you can work from your laptop, where you got no pants on underneath but a tuxedo top on, and that stuff has become acceptable in society. And to your point, people have lost the ability to communicate out in public. And what you said, Brett, last night was freaking hilarious. There's a couple of things that I'll bring up today, but we overestimate our abilities in sex and communication, and probably guilty of both, but it's really important to acknowledge that sort of stuff, right? We're out there saying we're great communicators. Oh, really? Give me some objective, give me some tangible feedback on that.
Because your staff does what, you tell them because they're scared of being blackballed or denigrated, and that it's interesting. I would say, and I'm fine being wrong on this, but think about what we all wear in the wearables and everything that gets tracked. The next biggest part of that market, the wellness market, it's going to be measuring quality social interaction. And we were talking about this today. There's already been companies that invested in that, Amazon, and then
laughing.
I can picture coming home. Hey, babe, did you have fun? I did. I had a 6 out of 10 tonight.
No, well, what this was is it would measure things like your tone, and it would try to interpret. And there's obviously subjective aspects of this as well. We were talking about, it would be like, hey, you were angry there was a marker of anger at 11:59. And I was like, well, oh no, that was me warming up my athlete saying, hey, idiot, let's go, having locker room humor. And so, but MIT had something called a sociometric badge, which they could code and it would buzz if they were interrupting too much. Or you could code other things. Now they have conversational analysis for HR representatives saying you need to ask the client a question. You need to use their name. And at the end, it would give you like essentially a warmth score and say, how effectively did you manage the dynamics of this conversation based on their own markers? And that's a lot of what we do.
I'm off the charts on that.
Oh, yeah, are we complicating this?
Well, what amount? I don't know. I'm feeling like when is more too much? All that seems insane to me.
A few years ago.
Yeah, and like even like this corporations investing money in fitness. People aren't doing it. I have friends that are literally paid by corporations to give free training sessions, and when you show up you actually pay less in your health insurance, and people do not use the sessions.
Sure. I mean,
That's been around forever.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like I don't know. I'm still waiting. I'd love to see the rollout of this. Maybe I need to wait 10 years to see what these investments play out to be, but I'm just really not impressed with any of what's.
You're actually, you can hear it in your voice. You're pissed.
I'm pissed.
No, but you bring up something that's been around forever, a little bit different of where these investments are going now, as far as they're investing in things to try and get you off your phone and like take you somewhere to have real life interactions. And I'll tell you why the fitness industry is really interesting in this space, because name me another place where you get someone's attention for a set period of time, because I can order this shirt or these shoes on Amazon and they will be at my house before I get home, right? I go to my cafe every day and I have a 30-second interaction with my barista. You know what I mean? We talked about the other day, like on our way here, I sat in the airport and I ordered my dinner on from a QR code, and the girl came over, did not speak one word to me, put my burger down. I had a beer as well. And I'm like, oh my God, I was actually craving the human connection of, oh, what type of beer do you have? Oh, do you like that? Is the burger good? How do you cook it here?
I mean,
oh, hello.
Greatest series of all time. Cheers.
Well, and like,
you
absolutely.
go to
And
make
fitness is
friends
the
at the bar. Like that's.
So I think fitness is the last place where you absolutely have to do it. Have to be in person, have to do all that sort of stuff. And I'm happy to be challenged on this. I do not think the online stuff has the same gravitas. And I think we've seen that with the, fall of things like Peloton and stuff like that. I think you have to be in real life.
What we're doing at the Pump Club has been pretty exciting. We have thousands of members.
You should tell people what that is, because that's subject to misinterpretation.
At the Pump Club? Arnold's Pump Club?
It's different. If you don't say Arnold's, you just say Pump Club.
Well, but it's an online fitness app, okay? And we're following a program within the app, and we have a handful of amazing coaches, and we do Zoom training sessions and do form checks. We do meetups throughout the year when we can, but it's like we just had one. We did like a ruck and like a deadlift party, and the in-person stuff is really important, but I have found it's not my first choice, but the online is what's creating a connection point for people to share and to interface and create friendships online. And then if they have the chance to meet in person, it's such the cherry on top. It's so amazing, and it puts a face and an energy to a name that you see in the app. But it really has made the difference, because that's where we're going now.
But it's a tool.
It's a tool.
Yeah, but think about going back to what you just said when you talked about issues with communication. Like personally, I'd be excited if technology continues to go that way to give us some data without overcomplicating it on communication. Because here's the thing, and you guys got blowback or have haters for certain things, so do I. I had somebody that listened to a podcast one time and they're like, fat chance I'm ever going to let some technology tell me how to communicate. And I'm like, but these are also the same people that say that they're lifelong learners and they want to get 1% better every day, but you're not willing to take a cue for how maybe you came across. And this was interesting for me going it from a strength coach to this is all these strength coaches would go to 80 million clinics of how to do weightlifting better or swing a kettlebell better or all these other things. And that's great. You should understand the X's and O's, be true to your trade. But then it's like there was a lot of friction getting them to go to, well, there's ways to improve your coaching or communication as well. Why? Well, the idea that I might not be a very effective communicator or as good as I could be, or it creates like cognitive dissonance. It's not a big deal if as two practice coaches or professionals, we give each other a tip on catching it clean or doing this, and this can help that. That feels like we're trading insider secrets or just, hey, this is a nuance that I learned here. But if I say, hey, maybe try cueing this way, or maybe try this personality try addressing that. Oh, you don't think I can figure it? It feels personal to some people when they take, but that wasn't true when we went into the corporate world. And it was interesting. I'm like, why when I interact with certain doctors or people in the business space, do they not have this reticence that they had in strength and conditioning and fitness sometimes? And I asked one of a firefighter that, and he's like, well, it's real easy, man. I communicate like shit. That's life or death. And we got the same answer in healthcare. But strength coaches like failed to understand those stakes sometimes. Because again, there was just a defensiveness. That's like, well, you're still dealing with somebody's career and their health. And again, I just have a problem. Be who you say you are. If you say I'm a lifelong learner, iron sharpens iron, all the other bullshit cliches that we hear, but that only appeals to you wanting to learn about the X's and O's or exercises, or it doesn't actually have to apply to coaching, which is your job. That's the title. Or how you deal with people. That's concerning. Are you really worried about being the best coach? Or are you worried about being the best like exercise demonstration person?
What? Go.
No, we talked about this with Ed on the podcast. It's like when I interviewed him, I get to a point where if you're this far along in the process, I don't want to say I assume, because we all know that, but I take for granted that you're good at the X's and O's. Now I want to know you as a person, because who you are as a person, there's going to be trickle down to the people you're interacting with. And if we're on the same staff, those people have to be able to glean the information and knowledge from you. And if you can't communicate it, if you can't be personable, if you can't, then all your other X's and O's, I mean, cool, but there's no way to, it's like you have the gift bag, but you're not opening it up, and they can't reach into it. And
Right.
so it's all wasted essentially. I look at the personality stuff as much as the X's and O's, and I've done,
Because you're a real coach.
but I've done the presentations and stuff, and I joke and I go, I'm not here to talk to you about deadlift form. By the way, everyone in the room can probably do that, and I can assure you a lot of them can do it better than I can. I'm here to talk about the part of whether it's branding, or we've done, it doesn't have to be branding, because then it always sounds like you're trying to monetize it, but about just who are you? You have to be able to get that across. My people, if you ask the people who work out with me, they know what they're going to get when they come there. I'm the eye of that storm. I'm the one constant in their completely unpredictable day and workout. I'm the one thing they know they're going to get that. They're going to get this attitude. They're not going to see much of a fluctuation in it. And I think you have to be able to be that for them. In such a transient, ever-changing world, you have to be that for your people as a coach, so they can relax into what you're about to put them through physically.
Listen, if you're still training with the plastic shaker bottle from 2012, it's time for you to upgrade. The Yeti Rambler, it's built like a tank, keeps ice all day, and doesn't leak all over your gym bag. It's light, yet it's durable. I know wherever I go, it goes, whether it's holding my tequila, my water, my protein shake, or whatever else I decide to put in there. Grab one and stop making hydration harder than it needs to be. Go to yeti.com, get in, get out, get going.
What's a big takeaway that you see happening with coaches that you work with, Brett? Like that you would say they tend to get in the way by doing blank.
They get in their own way by doing blank.
Yeah, like
So the most common question I get is, how do you deal with someone who? Meaning it's always somebody else is stubborn. And the first thing they should ask themselves, anybody, any of us, is where am I the problem? And that's all just Sun Tzu. Know thyself, know thy enemy, right? And so, yes, I'm sure this person has some unique characteristics that's making it challenging. I'm not saying they're not, but I usually say, like, where do you play a role in this? What have you tried so far? Okay, now help me understand the other person.
It's my conversation with my 9-year-old every day.
Yeah, well, it's, literally. You know what's funny about 9-year-olds and kids? They think naturally in first principles. So they think about it correctly. Why?
Yeah, go into that further. What do you mean?
First principles. Did you have something? I don't want to talk about it.
I actually wanted you to expand on it, because I really would love everyone listening to this to get into your brain a little bit.
Why don't you let them say it then?
No,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I wanted to lead you to
Interrupt you,
You
yeah.
said something last night where you said a 9-year-old's not half of an 18-year-old.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we think from that standpoint, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about biological age, chronological age, socio-emotional age. I mean, I know 22-year-olds that are more emotionally mature than a 43-year-old. And so there's different aspects to that development, right? But we expect kids are amazing at thinking in first principles, which is getting to the core of what first must be true for everything else to take place. So first principles thinking would be like, hey, if I'm building a building or creating this beautiful place that we're in, what do we need to think about? Well, the foundation needs to be good. The smart money goes into the ground first. Let's set the foundation. First principles, if somebody's like, oh, what's the best exercise? it helps to understand physiology, or it helps to understand like what's the goal. So it's the most rudimentary aspect that first must be thought of before you get to anything else. So it's the most basic reason. So Dad, why is it summer? Oh, interesting. First principles thing is like, all right, well, it's summer technically. And when I'm explaining this to my kid, I'm processing like, how do I do this in age appropriate terms? Well, the earth is tilted more towards the sun during certain times. And I'm like, well, buddy, because there's different seasons. And those, well, why are there different seasons?
Because you're not in school, dude.
You're right. And so you just have to get to the core reason, the most true, fundamentally atomic principle of why something is the way it is, and start there. Like, poor communication is guaranteed to make anyone's life worse. That is first principles thinking. Well, how do I be a better communicator? Well, first, understand what communication is. You see how we go down this thing until we get to the most basic truth about it, and then you build scaffolding around that. So when people are trying to solve a problem, first principles thinking is a core part. Like Warren Buffett and investing, first principles thinking. Well, diversify, or don't invest in a business that you fundamentally don't understand. Think about the simplest thing that needs to be true first. Mm-hmm. So, and one of that, if like I'm sharing, you share the best wine with good friends. If I was going to tell my son one thing when he gets older, like if he did if there was a metaphorical gun to your head, even though there's not just one thing, but what is one of the most important things I need to understand about being a better communicator, Dad? I would say the best strategy is you first need to get that person in an emotional state to be willing to receive whatever you're going to say, mm-hmm. right? Whether that's timing, whether that's taking them out to lunch, it doesn't matter what you say. It's not about your word choice. It's not about being a fantastic orator. That person needs to be in a psychological or emotional state where they're ready to receive that idea, right? And we see, crazy psychics, right? People, go ahead.
That was also Bill Cosby's approach, I think.
Yeah, jeez. Oh my God.
Sorry.
You would.
No, it's not. It's actually
a
very
physiological
real.
state to receive him.
Correct.
Not a psychological state to receive his idea.
Right,
he took it there.
Sorry.
For the record, he took it.
That was a set and a spike over here.
If you're gonna take it there, but does that make sense? Does
Yeah,
that answer your
very much
question?
so.
So, asking for a friend, how would you get your wife into that situation to accept communication?
Yeah, and it's funny because sometimes
go back to my question.
Actually, we did talk about this, and we, Luke and I communicate very well, and
Yeah, I'll be vulnerable so you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But like, I would say exactly what Jen just said then. Jen and I have got a great relationship and communicating, and people that I have relationships with, I don't have trouble communicating with. My wife would and has described me as the worst communicator she's ever met in her life.
In what capacity though? Like you're a bad listener, she thinks, or what? Poor listener?
I think all inclusive. I think that she genuinely just doesn't think that I understand her, but I feel exactly the same way.
But have you ever asked?
And it's not a marriage counselor.
No, I understand that.
But,
That's just
but,
principles.
but I want to improve my communication. I'm actually vulnerable in doing it and curious enough to actually understand that I have flaws in this, but I genuinely don't understand what they are.
Yeah. Well, have you ever asked her like, hey, what does good communication look like to you?
Yeah, I have. And I didn't understand it. So that's probably like an interpretation.
Would you be willing to share?
Yeah, I think she said to me that not understanding exactly what she needs out of things. And I'm still that red-blooded male that goes, I provide, I protect. And my role is to create safety in this household and life and stuff like that. Well, very different for her. She wants someone's present. I said, well, quote unquote, I'm very present in my mind. I'm home at 3 or 4 every day. I pick our daughter up. I do all that sort of stuff. But just understanding what she needs and then acting upon it. And
yeah, well, I mean, think about that. I mean, that's a good opportunity for questions, because whether it's, let's say you don't think I'm present, or like that presence or being there or whatever is going to look so different to you and you and Lily or any of the folks helping with this production. And so getting an understanding of what that looks like is the first principles thinking of, now I can work on that. Now, what she interprets as presence, eye contact, your phone's down, whatever it is, I don't know the situation, right? Like you might think of, oh, I'm doing a good enough job. That's why also we use a lot of video feedback and stuff. But it's interesting because perception is so subjective, that somebody can perceive and you're like, oh, well, I thought I'm showing up in this conversation or relationship the way that I would be good presence for me, or thoughtfulness. But getting an idea of where that subjective gap or that perceptual gap is can help you be better at that.
But then you're getting into the love languages. I'm sure you guys all read that, right?
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm talking about? And they say that the common slip up is that you pay into it the way you want to be paid into, and that falls on deaf ears, or you know, that that's not what they wanted, so they're not receiving it. So you're going, whatever, if yours is physical touch and gifts, right? Like you're giving them gifts and trying to touch them, and that's your way of loving them. And they're like, all I wanted is quality time and acts of service. And so you're beating yourself up going, I'm doing everything, man. And that's not what they're looking for. So they're not hearing it.
And goes back to like, what is the definition, and not getting into like the science-based definition of communication, but what is it? It's not just the act of me, you know, saying something. It's the act of, yes, a message being shared, but it also being received, interpreted. Right. It's going to be analyzed, and it's going to be sent back to you. It is literally like a dynamic, complex, reciprocal process of fuckery, right? That is bound to go wrong. Because people, I don't know what you mean by that. What's your tone? One thing I had to overcome is, you know, one time somebody just goes, you know, you're pretty aggressive. And I was like, that's interesting. Why do you perceive me as aggressive when I was presenting? You know, when I present, I'm passionate and I very much understand how I come across. I've worked on myself a lot. But for them, it was like, well, the way you look and you're loud and you're this and you just seem kind of combative. And I was like, you know, I'm sorry that that's how it seems to you. And I appreciate the feedback. Like, I nearly lost my life due to poor communication. This is my life's work. So I am really passionate about it. Really passionate about it. I'm probably overeducated on the subject. And that's not a flex. That's like admitting my own obsession about understanding social dynamics. And anything has a duality that can work against me. So we sometimes have a society that when they see somebody passionate, my voice, there's a stentorian or loud aspect to it. Like, I don't agree that I come across as aggressive. I think I come across as passionate, but that person codes passionate as aggressive. Does that make sense? So there's so many ways people are going to like flip things in their brain. And a lot of that is based on their own background, their own, like it could be education, their peer group, their experiences with their parents. We're learning this in dating right now. Past lovers and this. So somebody could resent my passion because their ex-husband was passionate and it made them feel threatened. So there's so many things that lead into it.
How do you come to a common ground? You're welcome, Gunnar. How do you come to a common ground though when someone decides that it's passion and the other person decides that it's aggression? How do you get to that compromise?
Just have to explain to them why they're wrong.
By the way, that'd be a good name for like a business common ground, whether it's a gym or coffee shop or something like that. But how do you? I'm sorry, I want to make sure I understand the question fully. How do you bridge that gap?
Exactly. So I think you're aggressive and you think you're passionate. How do we meet in the middle? Yeah, so that you're clear.
The funny thing is, I would bet if a person agrees with you, they hear you as passionate, and if they disagree with you, they hear you as aggressive.
Sure, and that's a really good point, because something else I had to learn about myself, because I could counterpunch, especially if you got trolls or haters sometime, because you know you mean to do well, and people are going to interpret it a certain way. I had to realize, I probably didn't realize it till 2 years ago, that the things I talk about make people, they kind of hold up a mirror to people. Yes, it can breed a lot of insecurity in people. A lot, because they can say, oh, he's saying that this is ineffective or this is good or bad or what have you. And then immediately, again, cognitive dissonance. Well, that doesn't align with how I see myself hits. And now they're going to start rationalizing, and now they're going to start projecting and attacking. I mean, the things people will say, oh, you're dabbling into a space you shouldn't be. You're not a therapist. I'm like, man, something must have hit close to home here. You know, and I'm not going to pull out the couch and be like, you want to talk about this? But you have to decipher the goal. If it's like a troll or whatever, I'm not going to rationalize or explain myself online. But if it's somebody that I actually want to build that relationship with, you try to find, hey, I'm sorry it's coming across that way. I try to manage it. What if I did this? What if I did that? Let's meet in the middle. I'm not going to change who I am. That's go ahead.
Then I've got to follow up. Is there a baseline of intelligence that you need to be a good communicator?
Social intelligence. For intelligence comes in many forms, as you know, right? So somebody can be intellectual. That doesn't mean they're socially and emotionally intelligent. So for sure, but it all starts with self-awareness. To be a more effective communicator, you first have to understand more about yourself, human nature, and understand that by nature, we kind of have a negativity bias. We're combative. We've always looked at each other as friend or foe based on everything that happened in the savannah thousands of years ago, right? We compete for resources. Today's resources are attention, status, money, likability, respect, just validation. Then it was like, oh, don't steal my turnip or I'll stab you with a spear in the eye. So whenever you have those internal defense mechanisms that 99.9% of the world has never worked on or even thought about, and that's why we use the archetypes. Somebody's like, oh, you're bastardizing Carl Jung's work or whatever. No, I'm giving people mental models, not putting them in buckets. It's a starting point to have a conversation.
Well, I think that you're giving people like a gentle primer to. It's like people sometimes have a hard time creating the shapes themselves, and you gave them a shape to say these are possible traits, right? That might appear. Do you think, or what do you think some of the greatest breakthroughs, or one of them in your own awareness, that helped you become a better communicator? Because sometimes you believe something is so true for so long, and you're like, actually, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Are you talking about my own self-realization or things that I learned about community? I want to make sure I understand the question.
Either, wherever your mind goes.
Yeah,
first.
I think one, just being somebody that's willing to receive feedback. And I think that's hard because we want to know that we want to think that feedback's a gift, but oftentimes it can feel like an attack. And it's tough too, because you could argue sometimes you don't want to take feedback from somebody that you wouldn't look to for advice. I'm not gonna, and I will admit, and this is an imperfection of mine, I do find it hard to take critical feedback from somebody that just doesn't have skin in the game. That doesn't mean they need to have written a book or owned a business, but if this is just like leadpipe69@yahoo.com, like they're not getting an ounce of my attention.
Well, yeah, but I don't have a lot of respect for, I'm thinking of a family member right now that I'm like, I don't have a lot of respect for that person.
Yeah.
And so any feedback I will not hear, but it doesn't mean they might not be right.
Sure.
And that's why it's like, that gets tricky. It's like, at what point am I willing to see it? And what point is too much feedback too much as well?
So
where you get gaslit into believing things about yourself that aren't true.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think the two things you have to have is an inherent curiosity. Why am I the way I am? Why do I behave this way? Why did I engage in that behavior? Because understanding yourself to a degree is understanding other people.
Yes.
Right? Like there's 8 billion people in the world. We're not that unique. And then accountability, and so this is kind of, I know it can appear cheesy, but it's like, it's 3 A's. You have to have awareness, you have to have accountability, and then you have to actually enact agency. You have to be willing to do something to change that behavior. Because just awareness, I can shut down sometimes. All right, good. You're farther than most. Accountability, I'm not going to allow myself to shut down sometimes, or I'm going to try not to. Agency, I'm willfully not shutting down in this conversation. And that is an ongoing loop. But if somebody doesn't have awareness, which is why we try to run workshops on this or democratize the information, how can they take accountability?
Well, it's funny. I hear what you're saying, and I think I'm thinking back to a therapist I worked with when I was in Denver, and I am a very aware person. I think I'm a great communicator and listener, but I had a lot of blind spots. And there is an exercise we did, I think she called it common denominator. And it's this idea, and we were going through stuff with we went through a couple exercises, like I have issues with my family. And so we went through like each family member and what my issue is with that person. And we went through like my last, my 5 ex-boyfriends. We went through all of them. And I'm like, in all these things that were going wrong. I'm so glad I didn't even see your face.
I'm waiting. We're all waiting.
I'm actually having like a great moment. And then he's making,
I'm not.
And you guys keep doing what you're doing. And the common denominator between everybody is me. And it was really eye-opening that I had to realize a lot of the behavior traits, the things that frustrated me, I had to look at my participation in that relationship and why those things kept coming up. And so it was a really exciting time for me. It was really hard in the moment, but I realized I'm like, I am a big part of the problem. And at first it was like upsetting. And then I realized how exciting it was that I actually could be the one that could heal and think differently and change my operating system a little bit and be the solution. And so I was blaming my family for why I was upset and every ex-boyfriend for why it didn't go well. But then when I took responsibility for what I could, my life literally, it changed.
And you know what happens as a result of that? Because if you think about people that don't do that, because there are a lot of people that get out of relationships and they continue to be avoidant and withdraw. And I'm like, well, what happens to folks like that? Well, they never experience tremendous intimacy. They might be happy. They might find, a spouse or a partner that ends up being like kind of a simp or a pushover or what have you, but they'll never enjoy the kind, or I would say the intensity of intimacy or depth rather, that two people that can actually be like, you know what, I can say I'm sorry and I'm full of shit sometimes. And I come from a good place. It just doesn't always translate that way. Sure. And I just want to apologize. Like that shit's not that hard. If you and I get in a disagreement,
2 seconds. What's
wrong with me being like, hey man, I came off a certain way. I'm really sorry. I was just excited to see you. I didn't mean to talk over you a bunch. I was excited. Yeah. I understand I can do that. It wasn't me trying to dominate the conversation. I just kind of miss you and I enjoy chatting with you. And like, if that's a real friend, the subtext there should have been like, oh, the guy's admitting fault and apologizing and coming from a good place. But I had a good friend do this to me recently, and I study this for a living. He's like, hey man, sometimes when I talk to you, and I don't see him very often, he's like, I feel like I'm getting a podcast. And I'm like, I got pissed. And then I thought, practice what you preach, dude. So I'll spare you the details, but I just kind of asked him some questions. And I was like, well.
Like a podcast.
Yeah. I was just like, well, why? And he's like, well, you go on and on. To be fair, when he talks to me, which was only like, we had only caught up twice that year, he usually asked me a question related to business or something else. And so I felt like that's what he was wanting from me. And then I genuinely wanted to help. And then there's also the reality of like, let's say it was my fault, 99%. Well, come on, man, this is reciprocal. Like we just talked about the definition of communicate. You play a role too. Yeah. So if I'm talking too much and you want to get in a word, say, can I jump in for a minute? Or that helps. But give me a signal. Yeah. And body language isn't enough. For as many body language books that sell out there, that's pretty much been debunked. Body language is a terrible way to discern somebody's true feelings.
I didn't know that. That's actually news to me. Yeah, right.
Yeah, some amazing research out there on that. We can go into it if you want. Yeah. But think about that.
Gunnar just turned his back to Luke, everybody.
But some people know not, they know not what they do. Think about if we looked at, they could just be focusing intently. If we were able to see people that are watching this right now. I remember apologizing one time when I just started presenting to a gentleman who looked like he would rather have just had intimate relationships with some kind of incurable disease than listen to me any longer. And I, in my own insecurity, apologized. I was like, hey man, like, I'm sorry if that didn't connect. What could I have done better? And he's like, what? No. I loved it. What are you talking about? I go, well, you looked.
Fascinating.
And he said, my wife says I do that. I have RBF. And so people think about that. You're not internally monitoring. Most people, if you're not media trained, are thinking, am I nodding my head like you're doing right now, a nonverbal signifier? Am I smiling? Am I, saying something, a verbal signal? That's interesting.
I say it to my wife and she's like, sometimes I go, babe, is this annoying you? Like, I don't have to talk. And she goes,
that's a great thing to say.
She goes, what are you talking about? She goes, I'm listening. I go, I don't know. You just seem like you're pissed. And she goes, why are you starting something right now? And I go, I don't mean to be. I'm telling you what I'm feeling, what I'm reading. She goes, I'm not giving that off. If I am, I'm sorry. Maybe you misread it. Maybe I'm giving it off. I'm sorry. I'm not. And then we go right back to zero and it's great.
Can I ask you a question though, with that exact example? So say you say to her, hey, I don't have to talk. What if the response was different? How would that make you feel if she goes, yeah, shut up?
If she said, yeah, I don't know, babe, right now I can't clue and I know you want to talk about this, but it's not a good time for me. I would go, okay, no problem. This happened the other day with something. I had something come up that was interesting business-wise, and I said, I want to share something with you. And then I had something physiologically that happened to me, and I said, I want to share with you, because I always say to her, I want you to know if I feel like I'm going to pass out or something, or if my arm goes numb, I want you to know that that might be a precursor to a heart attack. And I get dramatic with it. I go, I just want you to know that I knew I was going to die. And so I'll say something and she'll go, babe, give me a second. And I go, no problem. And then I go, could be dying now. Just like, but she's cool with it. No, my wife is great like that. She doesn't hold on to anything bad. And then she will 9 times out of 10 circle back and say, what were you saying before that you wanted to tell me? Mm-hmm. And if I'm a little bitch about it, I'll go, never mind. Yeah. It doesn't matter. The moment's passed, which is completely wrong on my part. So I work on not being that guy. And I go, and I have to rally and go, fuck, I got to drum up the enthusiasm that I had before when I wanted to tell you and you shut me down. But she wasn't shutting me down. She was pausing me, which is fine. Just because it pops into my head doesn't mean you get an audience with the queen or anybody. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to keep that in the starting gate. And so we'll come back to it. She's cool with that.
And adding a point to that, just to give people hopefully immediate value. And whether you want to think of this as like a nugget or a mental model or what have you, it's just important to remember that unexpressed wants or needs become unmet expectations.
Yeah, you said this last night.
Unexpressed wants or needs
become unmet expectations.
Oof.
And
you don't say what you want. You don't say what you need. Later, you're pissed that it didn't happen. The short phrase for that, not to communicate with the communicator, is I'm not a fucking mind reader.
Yeah. And think about it. It's the same issue with withdrawal or avoidance. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. They're not mind readers. You didn't express your want or need, and now you're pissed.
It's so funny you say that because it gets loaded, right? And again, I'm selfish. I'm taking over this now. But for myself, I'm 100% guilty of that. I know I'm guilty of that because I think that I'm doing my job before that, or that I'm somewhat less than by having to explain. Like, I'm needy by having to explain to you that I need you to listen to this project that I've got going on.
Information and because if you bury it, it just becomes resentment.
Of course.
Absolutely.
And go ahead.
I do a thing with Jess and I send it and I write, needy husband alert.
That's awesome. You label it, normalize it. Yeah.
Here's what it is.
I'm aware.
So right now, I'm aware that whatever I'm flagging probably is inconsequential at best. But I'm telling you, I got some needs. And it might be, I just need you to say, babe, that's so cool that XYZ happened, or thank you so much for doing that. And I'll just need whatever it is I need. And I'm going to do it. And she used to do needy wife alert. I don't get those as much anymore. She's now that she's gone through what she's gone through with our daughter, she's like, I got it over here.
Yeah.
But to me, when I get those, I like it because it means, I get a chance to solve a problem, which is how a lot of us are wired, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's the show. You're welcome. And we're sorry.
Don't forget to hydrate, lift heavy, and maybe call your mum. Actually, after listening to the three of us, maybe call the priest.
Please like and subscribe and comment, even if you only mildly enjoyed yourself. We'll see you next week.